Oh.
They were running new to the Fan Upstate or new to the ESPN Upstate ads for almost 2 years after.
By the way, I've asked that question a bunch of times to the boss.
Yeah.
It's a feel thing, if I recall.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get it. Welcome in. The Rob Brown Show's on the radio. This is the Fan Upstate. Howdy, y'all. Good to have you with us on a beautiful Upstate Tuesday morning. But no matter where you are around the country or around the world, we are glad, as always, to have you with us. My name is Rob Brown. Directly across from me on the other side of the glass, metaphorically speaking, of course, in charge of all of the wonderful sounds about to invade your ear holes. He is the great one, Lonzo, here as well. Zoe, I'd ask how we're feeling, but you've already told me.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. You need to be on the stream so you can watch Rob showcase his hat.
It's a good looking hat, right?
That's why I took him a second to push the button, because he was showcasing his hat. You gotta hit all angles.
You know, I don't. I got the driver cap on today. I got the Brawlin' Brutes hat on today. Which
is it fight night?
It's always fight night. Which I don't go with this look. I don't go with this look very often, right? You know, the baseball cap. I can put the baseball cap on and instantly know, okay, it's a little tilted to the right or left. It's a little slanted right or left. It's spun too far right or left. And I can go ahead and fix that. I don't need the mirror. I just know. With this cap, which does not weigh, it makes its way into the rotation once, maybe twice a month. You know, I got to make sure I look good, Zoe.
Well, I requested something similar for Christmas, but I'm going to turn it backwards so I can look like Sam Kinison every day.
The white Samuel L. Jackson. I'm here for it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have got a day lined up for you today. Yesterday, I speculated that via some creative editing on a Twitter profile, that one high-profile South Carolina Gamecock was going to announce that he was hitting the portal, and he did so about 3 hours after the show ended. We'll tell you who it was and why. Another Gamecock that was already in the portal, Jaheim Bell, has found himself a new team. And heads up, Clemson Tigers, you're going to get to square up with Jaheim Bell one, maybe two more times. We'll tell you where he ended up. Speaking of, I am going to ask a question that I'm very curious about. Do you consider your team's performance in a bowl game a referendum on where your team actually is? I got a couple of things that I do think pushes you forward and a couple of reasons that I think bowl games should not be viewed as a referendum. And before anybody asks, before anybody brings it up, I got about zero time for that interaction between one NFL Hall of Famer and one other sports television personality and the heated debate. Wow.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, but I hate to do this.
Mike Leach?
Yeah, according to Sports Illustrated, Mike Leach has passed away.
Mike Leach yesterday announced that the medical issue that he had at his house was thought to be a major heart attack, and that on top of having a major heart attack, that medical resources, medical responders were unable to get to Mike Leach until about 10 to 15 minutes after the issue happened. They had to hit him with the defibrillator a couple of times to get him back to a normal heart rate and rhythm. Mike Leach had already had some other health problems. He had said in a podcast not terribly long ago that he had been in a long fight with pneumonia that had kind of ransacked his immune system a little bit. So that's a terrible story, man. Terrible story. Mike Leach won me over. Mike Leach won me over as not just a hell of a personality, right? Regardless of how you felt about Mike Leach as a coach, Lonzo, he was one of college football's best personalities.
He is the guy that I would have loved to have interviewed. I mean,
yeah.
just to ask the off the wall the questions that we ask here on occasion, because my guy would have talked about it forever and has. And now a lot of people are going to go back and watch every interview you can find of him, and will still be entertained for years to come.
Yeah, I thought about pulling all of the Mike Leach audio today, but then I'm like, nah, don't do that, right? Like, don't do that. Don't go grabbing audio when we don't have an update on the guy. Tomorrow we will, because Mike Leach was just, you put a microphone in front of Mike Leach, and Mike Leach turned to gold, right? I remember after a game a couple of weeks ago in the regular season that Mike Leach won, a young, intrepid sideline reporter asked Mike if he had any advice for her and her fiance as they approached their wedding. And Mike was like, yeah, I got some advice for you. Elope. She was like, what? He's like, yeah, elope. It's just easier for everybody. He's like, I have already told my kids that if they will elope, instead of asking me to help plan and fund a wedding, I will kick them each an extra $10K on top of what I'm already going to pay for. I'll just I will scratch them a check for $10K to elope, because nobody wants to deal with your wedding. Nobody wants to go. Nobody wants to be involved in the planning. Nobody wants to orchestrate it. And I was laughing my rear end off, because I was like, y'all know he's right? Like, y'all know he's right. I'm down for a wedding reception. Nobody wants to be involved in putting together a wedding. Mike Leach, when Mike Leach was at, where was it, Washington? Mike Leach taught a class that was the history of piracy in the golden age. Now, that's kind of interesting as it is, right? Like, I don't know about you, Zo. There's one hand of me that's like, hey, pirates were by and large terrible people. But we've also created this image around pirates that, like, yeah, if I go down to St. Augustine, I'm hitting the Pirate Museum no matter how many times I've been there.
I didn't know there was a pirate museum.
It's a great museum.
It sounds really cool.
It's a great museum. It's a little touristy, but St. Aug's a big tourist town. If you ever get down to St. Augustine, and I suggest you do, when you get to Jacksonville, go faster so you don't have to spend any time there, and just go down to St. Aug. That was like one of Mike Leach's things. And I can tell you right now, if I was a college football recruit and the option to take a year of the history of piracy with head coach Mike Leach, that's a recruiting point for me. Yeah, I'm in for that. All right, Rob, time to pick an elective. You can pick advanced business economics. You can pick engineering for dummies, or you can pick the history of piracy in the golden age with Mike Leach. It's an easy call.
And that one will get you further in society.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I mean, you know.
There's never been a situation where I was unable to impress someone with my knowledge of history of piracy of the golden age. I'm a big Calico Jack Rackham guy. Jack Rackham had not only the dopest pirate flag, which, by the way, the one you see in your head, which is the skull with the crossed swords underneath it, right? Not the crossbones, but the crossed swords underneath it. That was Calico Jack Rackham's flag. Calico Jack Rackham had two things about it. I learned this from because of Mike Leach, who in part sent me down this because he mentioned Jack Rackham. I could not tell you in what postgame. It was from years ago, but he mentioned Jack Rackham in a postgame presser, and I'm like, all right, let me see what Leach is all about here. Jack Rackham did two things that made him famous. Number one, was known as Gentleman Jack. He was a notoriously unsuccessful pirate in terms of like amassing great amounts of wealth, but was beloved by his crew and was known as one of the only pirates, though, who when he was going to do pirate things, dressed exorbitantly, right? Like he didn't go put on his rags because they were going to get bloody. No. He went on and put on his finest calico dress so that when Calico Jack Rackham showed up, you were like, oh, damn, this guy must be important. Second, Calico Jack, you've heard the stories of Anne and Bonnie, the two female pirates. Only notorious because Jack Rackham let them sail with Jack. Now, there may have been some behind closed doors activities that Jack decided to allow. I don't know why I feel it necessary to give you a pirate history lesson other than in honor of Mike Leach. Anyway, Mike Leach did two other things that I love. Number one, Mike Leach is the reason that we say air raid offense. That's Mike Leach's term, right? There have been other offenses that have been wide open. We all think about Spurrier's fun and gun, etc. But Mike Leach's air raid offense, that's the reason that we say air raid. It's because of Mike Leach. When Mike Leach was coming up through the ranks and decided that he was going to get to a point that he was just going to turn it loose with that spread offense, which he developed along with, here's a name you haven't heard in a minute, Hal Mummy. Developed that style offense with Hal Mummy when Mummy was the head coach and Leach was the offensive coordinator at Iowa Wesleyan. He also brought it to Valdosta State and Kentucky. Mike Leach for a number of years. If Mike Leach went to a new school, that school was going to own passing records because that's what the guy did. He did it at Tech. He did it at a handful of other schools he coached at, Iowa Wesleyan, Valdosta State, Kentucky and Oklahoma as the OC. He did it at Washington State for 7 years as their HC, and he did it for 3 years at Mississippi State. The second thing that I loved about Mike, and I will see if during a break I can run and pull the audio of this, but a few years back, when the discussion began about the expansion of the playoffs, there were a number of coaches who were, anti-expansion, and they put out some interesting arguments. And Mike Leach just dismantled them. But he did it with that larger than life personality. This is when he was with Washington State, that larger than life personality that was Mike Leach. I'll say this, never spoke to Mike Leach. Never got the chance to talk to him. I was in the same room as him a couple of times here and there for different events I was a part of. He came down to Destin one year for our philanthropy group I was in. Never got a chance to talk to Mike Leach. But one of those cats that I think you just looked at, and it's almost like, and I've said this before, one of the marks that I find you interesting is that I don't want to meet you, right? There's a certain level of celebrity, and I've said this on this show many times. There's a certain level of celebrity that I don't want to meet you anymore. And it's not because I don't respect you, I don't like you. It's because I'm afraid that if I do meet you and you're not what I've built you up to be in my head, it'll ruin that mystique a little bit. I think Mike Leach was very much on that list because he was such a character. He was so over the top. Do I think Mike Leach was ever going to bring Mississippi State to a natty? Probably not. Not necessarily because of Mike Leach, but because, as I've said many years, Mississippi schools will never win a natty. Predominantly because Mississippi sits square between Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Texas, and they're not on par with the major universities from those states. So any kid that's a 5-star coming out of Mississippi, unless they're just a legacy Bulldog or a legacy Rebel, they're going to have nicer pitches coming from Bama, from Auburn, from LSU, from Texas, from Florida. But I'll tell you what, Mississippi State under Mike Leach got more discussion, got more attention, got more recruits than the Bulldogs had gotten since what? Sylvester Croom was there a couple of decades back. If nothing else, Mike Leach got Mississippi State on a map they weren't on before. That's just a sad story, man.
I remember a couple of years ago, I don't remember from which vacancy it was, but there were rumors that Mike Leach could come to South Carolina.
That'd have been fun.
Yes, it would have been a blast.
I don't know, man. Like, I was a little shocked when he got to State. Because I kind of thought, all right, Mississippi State's going to be a team that is always going to want to be a run-first team, old school Southern SEC football. We're going to run the hell out the ball. Run the goddamn football. And brought in Mike Leach. I'm like, all right, let's get weird. Because if there is a phrase that encapsulated Mike Leach, it's let's get weird. Swords up for Mike Leach today. Swords up, cannons out for Mike Leach today. Texas said, Pirates are forever, Rob, and not the Pittsburgh ones. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. I listen, I think that was kind of the thing that sparked, it was twofold that sparked my interest with Mike Leach. Number one, absolutely give me an offense that is revolutionary or at least vastly different from everything else. And Mike Leach did that, right? When you had guys like Saban that were pushing back against wide open offenses in college football, against air raid and fast-paced offenses in college football, Mike Leach was like, okay, what if we took a fast-paced offense and then we just like gave it an IV of Red Bull and see what happens? And it was fun to watch. And the other reason I love Mike Leach is his fascination with pirates. Because honestly, Mike, me too. Me too. There's a pirate flag hanging in our office right now.
Yeah, but he also believed in Bigfoot.
Listen, I never get mad at anybody for believing in Bigfoot. I like whimsical things too. And did he believe in Bigfoot, or was he open to the possibility of Bigfoot?
He talked about going and looking for him.
That's fine. That doesn't mean you believe
You can't go look for something if you don't think it might be there. Just saying.
They say, again, I've never had a problem with somebody believing something is a possibility. You can believe something is a possibility without believing it's real. I like to believe that Mike Leach was smart enough to know that. Anyway, R.I.P. Mike. Mike Leach, like, you scroll social media. If I see Nick Saban speaks out about blank, whether or not I click on that is dependent on what Nick Saban's speaking out about, right? If I scroll by and it's like Nick Saban speaks out about Southeastern Conference uniform combinations, I'm like, I got nothing for me. Nick's not going to entertain me here. If I come across a tweet that said Mike Leach speaks out about, it doesn't matter what comes after the word about. That play button's getting mashed hard. So we'll see if we can't find some Mike Leach audio for tomorrow. Breaking news brought to you by our friends at BetQL. Be a better, be smarter, beat the books with our friends at BetQL. RIP Mike Leach, 61 years old, passing away due to complications from a heart condition. One of the most entertaining, larger-than-life characters in college football history. He will very much be missed. That's an L for the college football world if I've ever seen one. Mike loved college football too. I think that's the part that is really what makes this thing is you could tell Mike Leach loved what he did. Mike Leach loved the coach. Mike Leach loved the kids. Mike Leach loved being the personality. Mike Leach was like me, Lonzo. Never seen a microphone he was afraid to say some crazy stuff into. All right. In honor of Mike Leach, let's do a ridiculous segment when we come back. Joe Buck. I like Joe Buck. I might be the only one in the upstate.
Oh man, I've said many times I like Joe Buck.
All right.
Yeah, I don't get the hate. I think it's jealousy.
This show stands Joe Buck. But did Joe Buck knock a couple of tequilas and Grand Marnier back before last night's game? I got some audio evidence, and I'll let you decide next on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right, stream. What's up, everybody? Welcome in. Sorry we had to start this show off with a buzzkill. Did you see the game? It was like week 8 or 9 of the college football season. Mississippi State was losing. And there was a video of Mike Leach going up and down the sideline, picking up folding chairs, folding them closed, and setting them on the ground, one after the next, one after the next, one after the next, while his team's playing. Folding chair, fold it, put it on the ground. Folding chair, put it on the ground. Folding chair, fold it, put it on the ground. And after the game, they're like, Mike, what were you doing? And Mike was like, well, the offense was resting enough when they were on the field. I didn't think they'd need more rest sitting down on the sideline. That's old school coaching, man. That's old school coaching.
For sure. Hey, Steven, did you guys let him know? I mean, that it was the Armada. I think that's kind of important too.
I think in my head, the way I see that game going, is everybody starts hitting them with self-checkout talk, but nobody tells them why.
I get what you're saying, but I also, think it hits harder if he knows where it comes from. But,
the lady friend and I just finished the Wednesday Addams show on Netflix. That song that I was just humming comes from that show, and it's got such an old 50s surf rhythm, but it's so melodic it has been stuck in my head for 2 days now, and I cannot get it out. I've tried everything.
I can start playing Barney's "I Love You, You Love Me" coming out of every break. That might help you. I'm just here to help.
Or, hear me out. You cannot do that. And that would be great too. Dun, 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 dun.
Did you look it up to see if it was an actual song?
It is.
What's the name of the song?
I don't remember because it's like a weird made up word. But it's funny because everybody was talking about how weird the dance she did was in the show.
I've seen the dance. I watched the video of the dance.
And everybody was like, it's so weird. It's so like off-putting. But she drew the inspiration off of it from a bunch of different scenes from the original Addams Family TV shows. Like dances that Wednesday and Gomez and Morticia did in the original TV show. And I respected that from her. I did. It's we got 2 episodes in and we were like, oh, this show is definitely written for like high schoolers. Like it's terribly immature writing. But at that point, we got into a competition about who was going to figure out the mystery first. And
is that the name of the song, by the way?
Yeah, it's like Goo Mosh, Goo something. But it's just an old.
I feel like I'm being pushed towards the series, which I don't like that. So because a lot of people are like pushing me towards it. So
I'll put it this way. It's an okay little whodunit, but it is definitely written like a High School Musical level work.
I watched the original Addams Family. No, not when it came out. Just want to point that out because it came out in black and white. I wasn't alive then.
All right, in honor of head coach Mike Leach, who passed away last night at 61 due to complications from a heart condition, and was one of the best personalities in college football. One of the most unique, ridiculous, over-the-top personalities in college football. Let's do a ridiculous segment. Let's just have a little fun. And I do want to come back to something that happened because I still think there has to be a discussion about what happened around Mike Leach with the Craig James's son scenario. And we'll get to that in a little while. But I wanted to do something ridiculous because, Mike Leach. So I'm going to go to 2 audio clips here. Both of them from Joe Buck. Now, as Lonzo and I both said, ending up the last segment, we both stan Joe Buck. All right? I like Joe Buck. I will say, as somebody who has to develop this career from the ground up, I absolutely think that Joe Buck got where Joe Buck is to some degree based on his pops. But I will also acknowledge to you, knowing how much work goes into calling a game and how miserable you will sound on the call if you do not do that work. And the fact that Joe Buck calls, 3 different sports around the calendar? Joe Buck took standing on second base when he was born in this business, but sprinted home. Did the work to be good. I stand Joe Buck. Let me start with clip 3, if you don't mind here, Lonzo. This comes from an interview that Joe Buck did with Colin Cowherd a couple of years back. Colin Cowherd.
I just want to point out, if you like Colin Cowherd, what's wrong with you? Especially if he's like your hero or something, definitely there's a problem with you.
I shall leave that there. Colin Cowherd asked Joe Buck about developing his chemistry with Troy Aikman as a play-by-play and color commentary team. And Joe Buck gave a little bit of an answer and then spilled out the secret about how to get that chemistry to work.
It took longer for Troy and me to get there than it took Smoltz and I to get there. And I'll say this, we have had that glass of bourbon in the booth, although it's not bourbon, it's tequila, splash of Grand Marnier, and grapefruit juice. I went through a couple of years where in the first inning of every postseason baseball game, I had the runner go get the biggest beer that the stadium sold. And I had it sitting there and I would sip it from time to time to remind myself to relax and have fun. I'm just doing a game. And I brought that over to football, but because Troy is a man of finer tastes, beer somehow became tequila, Grand Marnier, and grapefruit juice. We haven't done it in a long time now, but it was good for a stretch. And I feel like it's a good mental trigger to just chill and remind yourself that you're not refueling an F-16 in mid-flight. You're doing a sporting event. And if you treat it like anything other than that, you're doing yourself a disservice.
So that's what Joe said about building his chemistry with Smoltzy. The secret was tequila, a splash of Grand Marnier, and grapefruit juice. Now, I'm going to tell you, as a frequent imbiber, that sounds delicious. That sounds fantastic. In fact, I may very well this evening do a little live video where we do the Joe Aikman, Troy Buck press box beverage taste test. Because tequila, Grand Marnier, and some grapefruit juice sounds absolutely delightful. That's a boat drink. I will also tell you,
I'm curious because that's kind of that's a no-no for radio. So that's allowed on TV.
I am going to tell you that the rule of thumb where I have been, and again, you know me, Zoe, while I talk a big game, I do not break rules. I don't. Rob Brown.
Believe it or not, I do.
Yeah, that would shock people. Between the two of us, Lonzo is the rebellious one. Okay? Rob Brown is a stickler and a goody two-shoes.
Power to the people, yep.
That being said, I can tell you for certain that if Rob Brown is doing something non-work related, but that involves me needing to be on, Rob Brown will knock back a shot of tequila as a warm-up. Absolutely. Rob Brown will knock back some bourbon as a warm-up, right? We had some people come over to the house for a party a couple of weeks ago. We're going to have like 35 people at the house. Me and the lady friend. Rolling a party for like 35 people. You better believe Rob had a little bit of liquid courage before that started. Never enough that it's going to impact me. I will tell you that at one of my old stations, many moons ago, I had a boss that said the rule was when you're doing a live remote, you may drink but not talk about it on the air, or you may talk about drinking on the air but not actually do it, but not both. You can either talk about the booze and not have any, or you can have some booze and not talk about it. It's your choice. And it basically was a one-strike rule. I don't know because I've never asked because I haven't had to worry about it. I don't know what the rule is about if I was on remote with this show, could I have a mimosa? I don't know what the rules are. I'm going to go if Lonzo's there. The answer is no.
I will tell you that discretion, whether it's written or unwritten, is left up to the producer about whether to pull said host if they appear inebriated.
Sure. I get that. But again,
because it's Lonzo, why did you let him go on the air drunk? You're fired.
But again, I will say this. I get where Joe Buck's coming from. Knocking back a shot of tequila is not the same as knocking back a bottle of tequila, right? A shot or two, for those of us who are partakers, a shot or two ain't gonna do anything to me. It's just it's a warm. It gets you a little it gets you all nice and warm on the inside. Now you start getting into that 3, 4, 5 range. Now you're playing with Lonzo's patience, right?
Yeah, you ain't making it that far,
right?
If
we go to brunch, if we do a brunch remote one day, I can have 2 mimosas. You'll never know.
First of all, that's far-fetched. that we would do a brunch remote. Second of
Why?
all,
I would absolutely do the hell out of a brunch remote.
yeah, but
I'm a big brunch guy.
no, that we be scheduled to
Gotcha.
do a brunch remote. That was a crack elsewhere that I kind of wanted to go underneath, and you didn't get it. So, if
anybody wants to have us out for a brunch remote, we're in. That's all I'm saying.
Why would it? Well, yeah, I guess it would be. Yeah. What time does brunch start? I still don't understand.
You're in peak brunching hour right now.
Oh, I thought, yeah, because it's breakfast and all right,
right in the middle.
Okay,
you're in peak brunching hour, and the hours will be extended slightly longer on both ends if there is bottomless mimosas involved. That's the brunch rule.
I still don't know what that is, but I guess it's a drink.
Is champagne and OJ, champagne and orange juice.
All right, we don't have to worry about it. Any place that would have us out for brunch, they wouldn't serve that. So, we're probably good.
Yes, they
champagne.
There are dive bars now that do mimosas because they're all right. Anyway, point is, Rob Brown can knock back a couple of mimosas. You never know. You never know. I start getting to where I polished a bottle of champagne.
By the way, just because I don't drink doesn't mean I don't notice tendencies of people and how they normally are, and if they're slightly off, that I couldn't tell because I could.
Sure, but I also think there is, and I'm glad you said that because we're coming to the second piece of Joe.
You also have tells, so because I've been out somewhere where you've been drinking, you have tells, and most people do. Tails. I can tail when I can tail.
Here's the other thing, and this is why I want to play this audio too. And this is not, it's going to come as I'm directing it at Lonzo. I'm not. I'm directing it to the Rob Brown Armada, right? I think the other thing that happens, especially with people who don't drink, is you start to think that if a guy has a drink, all of a sudden now he's drunk. Like, no,
that's not true because everyone has different tolerances.
Right.
And I was a designated driver. I know. And if you spend time around people, I had a buddy, you could never tell he was drunk except for his eyes slowly got red.
Sure.
They got red. And then there are people like Rob who are huggers who want to hug even more.
So I hug everybody.
Yeah.
All the time.
Oh, yeah, but there's hugging and hanging.
When
you drink too much, you start hugging and hanging. It's kind of the lean hang, that thing.
That's just me being an extrovert. Anyway.
No, it's not.
Let me get to this Buck audio. This was the introduction to last night's Thursday night football game on Amazon. Joe Buck introducing the broadcast with the Arizona Cardinals playing host to the New England Patriots. And after this intro ran, immediately people started hitting social going, is Joe Buck drunk right now? Is he knocking back tequila with Grand Marnier and grapefruit juice in the booth? Here's the audio, and I want you to decide.
It is a cool evening in the desert, but we're getting ready to heat it up. It's the New England Patriots and the Arizona Cardinals for you on a Monday night. It is week 14. That means 14 straight weeks, and Melo has made it right. And Mac Jones looking for a little more air in this offense, trying to open things up. Matthew Judon with a career-high 13 sacks coming after Kyler Murray. Tonight, where's Kyler? There he is. Not the tallest guy in the world. Robert Wadlow was back in the day, but he couldn't sling it like Kyler. And when he's looking downfield, he's looking for D-Hop, DeAndre Hopkins. Looking for a big night tonight in front of us all. Welcome to the Progressive Monday Night Kickoff.
Okay, couple of things out of that for Joe. Number one, the immediate intro. It's a cold night in the desert, but we're heating it up for you. Now, when that video came across my social last night, people were like, I'm like, Joe's not drunk. All right, Joe Buck's not drunk. And then I played that. I'm going to tell you can you just roll like the first 5 seconds of that clip back? Just like the first 5 seconds, just that first part.
It is a cool evening in the desert, but we're getting ready to heat it up.
That's a dude who's had some bourbon, okay?
I disagree. I disagree. That's a guy who's having fun and he's cold.
And we're going to heat it up for you. Yeah, no, listen, I'm not saying Joe had some bourbon. I'm just saying that's the way a guy who had some bourbon would say that sentence. All right? I'm loud. I'm boisterous. When I open a broadcast, if you listen to Burns Rebels football, you know the start of the broadcast. It's Friday night, and we're going under the lights. It's time for high school football right here on the Fan Upstate. That is a world different than it's a cool night in the desert, and we're heating it up for you. That's a guy who had a JD and diet before we got started.
All right, so I think there's a little bit of a difference to his delivery than what people are normally used to, and because of that, they automatically think that he was drinking because he's the snarky guy. He's not the energy guy. He's not, and he came with some energy. So right away, oh, he's got to be drunk. Maybe he's just cold.
And again, I'm gonna tell you right now, Lonzo. I'm gonna go ahead and warn you this in advance.
You Florida people, you just don't know what being cold really is. I'll give you a perfect example. 2011, I got to sent to Philadelphia to cover the Army-Navy game. Temperature at kickoff of that game was 13 degrees, 8 with a wind chill. Balmy.
No, miserable. When Rob Brown rolled up to the stadium, I was on a bus, and there were some names on that bus. Peter Burns of SEC Network was on that bus. Andrea Adelson was on that bus.
I got to get that name drop cut thing.
Tracy Wolfson was on that bus. Rob Brown was on that bus. We got to the stadium, and as we're getting off the bus, the guy who was our liaison from USAA, they were the ones who brought us up there to cover the game. We got off the bus, and the guy's like, if anybody wants it, I've got a bottle of bourbon you guys are welcome to. I think it was whiskey. We got a bottle of whiskey you guys are welcome to. And I was like, it's like 11:30 in the morning, dude. And he's like, yeah. Step off the bus and tell me how you feel about it.
All right. I'm just curious. And this was pre-COVID. So were there cups?
Nope.
That's kind of what I figured.
And here's the thing. I'd have the same reaction, right? Like, dude, like, I don't know that I want to pull off a handle that a busload of people on. I got off that bus. I was like, give me that bottle. Bottoms up, America.
Did any of those other names hit that bottle?
I shall not disclose. I refuse to disclose.
Oh, we want to know now. Could you make that a stream exclusive?
No, I will not disclose. Second part of what Joey B had to say there, what Joe Buck brought into that discussion, was he'll be trying to get to Kyler Murray. Where's Kyler? Oh, there's Kyler. You know what that was? That's the dude who knocked back a few bourbons before his boys got to the bar, and his boy walks into the bar, and there is nothing that a guy a couple of JD and diets deep at the bar loves to do more than see his boy walk in and go, there he is. Trust me, it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Saying there he is when your boy walks into the bar after you is just a staple of bourbon guy. There he is.
He just says he doesn't do the bourbon anymore. So
tequila.
Is tequila guy and
Grand
bourbon guy
Marnier.
the same? Okay, all right. I'm learning here.
Shot guy. Let's just go with shot guy. Guy who pops back shots at the bar. And I will tell you, I am not shot guy anymore. I will take some shots, but I'm not like doing shots throughout the night, right? I'll do a shot, maybe two with you, but that's about the cap on shots for Rob Brown. Rob Brown used to be shot guy. And if I gave Lonzo a penny for every time I went, there he is, Lonzo would have retired a decade ago. There's
no one out there who doubted when you said there he is, guy, that you were talking about yourself. You were talking about you. Yes, we all knew that.
I'm there. There he is. Look, my man Brandon's in the chat. Brandon rolled up to the boathouse when I was back in Florida 2 weeks ago. I had seen him, Lonzo, 30 minutes before at his job. 30 minutes before. He got to the boathouse. He rolled up. I'm like, there he is. All right. Joe said, where's Kyler? There he is. That shot guy.
See, I just took it as a crack on Kyler's height, which I'm there for every single time.
By the way, did you notice, and this is why I love Joe Buck, the next thing he did was make a ridiculous historical reference when he's like, not the taller guy, that's Robert Wadlow back in the day. Robert Wadlow is the name of the tallest human being on record to have ever lived. You didn't know that before today. Well, some of you did. Most of you didn't know that before today. Joe Buck just worked that random-ass historical fact into his opening monologue. Why? Why not? There he is. Let's take a break, come back, wrap up the hour after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. There he is.
Teams in the league. Charlotte just 7-20, the Pistons 7-22. The Panthers have a 2-game winning streak and put that to the test this Sunday. They're home against the Steelers. The 5-8 Panthers still in the race for the top spot in the NFC South. 6-7 Tampa Bay ahead of them. The 5-8 Falcons also in the mix. Furman Paladins basketball plays all season long on the Fan Upstate. Download the Odyssey app, then search the Fan Upstate. Listen anywhere on your phone. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Fan Upstate.
If you own a business, this has been a bumpy ride. From pandemic to inflation, I'm sure you could use a break. If your business has 5 or more employees and survived COVID, you might be eligible to receive a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. The challenge is getting your hands on it. Hi, I'm Howard Mackler, and that's why I found GetRefunds.com to cut through the red tape and get you the money. The team of tax attorneys we have put together are highly trained in this little-known payroll tax refund program.
There he is.
Charge another dime up front and send a percentage of the cash that you get to you. Businesses of all types can qualify, including those that
I will not, Neil, unfortunately, be in Florida for the Gator Bowl. I would like to be. Courtney and I considered going down for the Gator Bowl. But we've got a couple of different trips coming up over the next 4 or 5 months that we've decided to put our money into. So unless I can get Lonzo to talk our boss into flying me down there to cover it, I suspect I will not be going.
I'm saving those favors for myself.
Fair enough. Respect that.
Evident in all you do. Since 1916, Smith & James men's clothing has been an upstate staple. They are the fabric of the community, literally. And Smith & James thrives because they succeed at their mission to make you look your best. Believe me, if they can make me look good, they can do it for anybody. I'm the before picture. Visit Smith & James at 222.
I'm not going to lie to you, Tanner. I quit managing my team about week 11 because I was 2-9 and could not justify putting time into it. My team is hot garbage. 2-9. Team is hot garbage. Like 4 of my starters got hurt. A couple of them for the season. I tried to make some trades, and nobody in the league would make trades. So I basically got stuck. And once people started rejecting every trade I made, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm out. There's no point to this, right? Like, I'm just all I was doing every week in trying to manage, like I was trying to make trades and get better players. I was trying to play the waiver wire, but there are 18 teams and every team has 3 IR spots as well. So every team's like 40 players deep. Basically, we were drafting every starter from the National Football League. So if you went to like the best available waiver player would be like Jacksonville's 5th string wide receiver. There's nobody out there. And so the other aspect of that, when you have 4 or 5 guys getting hurt, it creates a situation where you can't trade anybody, right? Because you've got no healthy players to trade. You'd have to send healthy players to get healthy players, and you're not going to get equal value back. So it just got to the point where it wasn't worth it to manage. It wasn't worth my time to manage anymore. I told the league commish, I'm like, if you want to boot me from the league for this, that's fine. But I'm not sending any more. I'm not putting any more effort into this team. I will let you know which keeper, what dynasty players I want to keep when the season's over. But just tell everybody else it's a free dub if they play me before the end of the year.
Warehouse in the next break.
10-4. I've been informed that the self-checkout versus cashier checkout debate raged on yesterday after the show was over, and I just want to say, good job, everybody. Good job, everybody. I'm so proud of you guys. All right. We've got Steven popping in saying Joe Buck is trying a more upbeat, energetic intro style. He did it for the Bucs Saints game too. Yeah, no, I remember. For the record, it is not the energetic part of it that caught my attention. And for the record, frankly, I don't care if Joe Buck did knock back a couple of tequila, Grand Marniers, and grapefruit juice. I thought he did a good job. The intro piqued my interest, which is exactly what an intro is supposed to do.
All I heard was Kyler Murray short.
Where's Kyler?
By the way, sorry that Kyler got hurt, but he, it doesn't change his height.
I had a revelation during the break there, Zoe. I realized there are 2 people that go, there he is. Person 1 is shot guy at the bar. Guy who's not back a couple of shots of tequila, Grand Marnier, and grapefruit juice. And the second person who goes, there he is a person playing peekaboo with a baby. So either Joe Buck was shot guy, or as Lonzo may have astutely pointed out, Joe Buck was pretending to play peekaboo with Kyler Murray.
All right. There's a third one. And that's disturbing. There's a third one in a mobster movie when the guy comes in who's just messed up and he's about to die.
Get whacked.
The mob boss, there he is.
There he is. There's my guy, Joey Fatso. There he is. Anyway, look, I still stand Joe Buck. I never stopped standing Joe Buck. I got no problem with Joe Buck. If Joe Buck wants to knock back 2 or 3 shots of tequila before a game to loosen up, have at it, dude. It's clearly worked for you. It's gotten you to making buku dinero, calling Thursday Night Football for Amazon and World Series for Fox. You did all right. There he is. There he is. All right, that's enough of that. When we come back here in just a minute, the Atlanta Braves made a move yesterday and have added a former All-Star into the lineup, but they sent one away at the same time. Yet, I think it was a net win for the Bravos. We'll break that trade down from yesterday and more. There he is. That's Lonzo. I'm Rob. I won't say there he is one time in the second hour of the show, the Rob Brown Show, the Fan Upstate.
Warehouse.
Alonso was they're only keeping Tebow down because they don't like him and his message. Yeah, definitely not because.
Trying to find that Leach quote about when he was defending the playoff expansion, but I can only find it buried somewhere in the middle of a 10-minute press conference. Single answer, 10 minutes.
You did say that you were going to do it tomorrow. So
Yeah, I just wanted to find that one. But again, 10-minute answer. Putting together Mike Leach's best audio clips is going to be a solid full day of work.
those are the best kind of interviews, though.
The old one-question interviews.
Oh, yeah.
Who's been your interview that was the hardest to get through because they wouldn't stop answering?
I have to think about that.
Ask the late, great Harry Carey about doing live broadcast and downing Budweiser's. He was fully sloshed by the 7th inning stretch. I very much remember watching Harry Carey call games. I don't know if Harry Carey was sloshed or if that's just how Harry Carey sounded. Again, especially the old school guys. I'm not going to get mad if a broadcaster puts down a bourbon mid-broadcast as long as it doesn't change or impair the broadcast. I don't care. Doesn't bother me at all. Not in the least. I'm not going to do it not because I'm against it, because I don't know if my boss is or not. And until I get told, hey, I don't really care if you have a beer doing the broadcast, I'm not going to. But you know who I'm not? Joe Buck or Harry Carey. All right, let's get to not that anymore. The Atlanta Braves were involved in a 3-team trade yesterday. The Bravos ended up making a move that brought them former Oakland A's catcher Sean Murphy. Sean Murphy is a 28-year-old, third-year player at the big leagues who made the All-Star game in 2021. They now add him to Travis d'Arnaud. The Braves had 2 All-Star catches on their roster. Alongside d'Arnaud was William Contreras. William Contreras made the All-Star game, but, and this is where I urge Braves fans to calm the hell down. Contreras made the All-Star game as a designated hitter and made the All-Star game as a designated hitter only because Bryce Harper was injured and could not go. And Contreras filled in that spot. Otherwise, he would not have been an all-star player. And he was not an all-star as a catcher. He was an all-star as a DH. Now, he did start behind the dish 57 games for the Braves this year. So why did they make the move for Sean Murphy? The answer is because Murphy's very good. That's the answer. Murphy is just as good at the dish as Contreras was, but he's also less of a defensive liability, right? If William Contreras was a better catcher, he probably replaces d'Arnaud, especially when d'Arnaud had a couple of spots in season where the bat went cold on him. Murphy hit at a 250, 332, 426 split in 2022, 7th amongst catches in WRC. Moving to Atlanta, he took a 684 OPS in Oakland, 820 on the road, 18 home runs he hit with the A's, and Atlanta's a little bit more friendly for an offensive hitter than Oakland, so those numbers are likely going to come up. On top of that, Contreras would have been going into his last season. Sean Murphy is under team control for 3 more years. And Sean Murphy being 28 really fits into what the Braves have tried to do, which is enter the early portion of a dynasty by building a very young team. On opening day, the lineup looks like this. Michael Harris II in the outfield is 22. Vaughn Grissom at 22 would likely be sliding into that shortstop spot if they don't bring Dansby Swanson back. Spencer Strider, runner-up for NL Rookie of the Year, is 24. Who'd he lose to? 22-year-old Michael Harris Jr. Ronnie Acuna in right, 25. Austin Riley at third, 25. Mike Soroka off the bump, 25. Ozzie Albies at the infield spot, 26. Kyle Wright, 27. Sean Murphy, 28. Matt Olson at first, 29. Max Fried, 29. So not only does Murphy come in under team control for 3 more years, but he does so as a 28-year-old and is likely in a good spot that the Bravos could sign him to a more long-term deal if he shows up and those numbers do go up and do get better. But I mentioned the defense. The Braves in Sean Murphy, along with Travis d'Arnaud, now have 2 of the top 6 catchers in StatCast for catcher framing runs saved from 2022. That is to say, 2 of the best 6 catchers in terms of preventing runs and preventing base runners by being able to frame pitches effectively, both belong to the Atlanta Braves. Contreras, when he was in those 57 games, threw out just 14% of base stealers in 2022. You add in the fact that there are new rules limiting pickoff throws and increasing the size of bases, and those numbers for most catchers are going to come down, right? Runners are going to have an extra 1.5 inches or whatever it is to get there, and when you're talking about throwing a guy out from home to second, an extra couple of inches can make all the difference in the world. d'Arnaud has also had issues throwing out runners in the past. He has thrown out 1 out of every 4. Sean Murphy's numbers, slightly better than that. William Contreras is younger. He is 25, so he's young enough to be able to improve in those areas. But the But the Brewers did not bring him up to play DH. To play catcher. They brought him up to play DH. Their catchers last year hit .202 with 12 home runs combined. William Contreras is an upgrade. But Sean Murphy is an upgrade over William Contreras as well. Now, there are a lot of folks who are going, wait a minute, look at the haul that Oakland got. Look at the haul that Oakland got in this. The Braves got fleeced. And my response to that is, no, not really. Atlanta gets Sean Murphy. Oakland gets Kyle Muller, a bump starter, Esteury Ruiz, Freddie Tarnok, Roger Salinas, Manny Pena. Milwaukee gets William Contreras, Justin Yeager, and Joel Payamps. You're going to look at that, you're going to go, wait a minute. Oakland looks like they got the win here, and Milwaukee got a pair of potential all-stars and 1 all-star in William Contreras. Why did it work out this way? How did Milwaukee pull off this steal? And the answer is they didn't. The Braves wanted Sean Murphy. Very similar feel to Matt Olson. Oakland wanted Muller, wanted Ruiz, wanted Tarnok, and then needed a catcher to put that depth back in with the loss of Sean Murphy. So Manny Pena became involved. But in order to get all those guys, Milwaukee was a team that facilitated that, right? And in facilitating that, they were able to pick up some guys there as well. They get an all-star catcher, a bunch of prospects, and they let go of some utility players. Everybody that Milwaukee let go in this trade combined for a total of 36 Major League Baseball plate appearances. So how did this work out? It's real simple. Somebody on social media yesterday described it. Lonzo, you ever seen those internet videos where a dude's like, do you have change for a 20? And he's like, all right, I'll give you this 20. You give me 2 10s. I'm going to give you back a 5. You give me back the 20. I'm going to give you back 1 10. You give me back the 5. Here's your 20. Now you've got this and I've got that and we're all good. And then at the end, the dude that put the 20 down to make change walks away with like $12. That's what this feels like, right?
I've been a cashier and dealt with that before.
Yeah.
So yes.
You have people that are they're slick. They're slick and they're quick, and they got the silver tongue. And it felt like that. But somebody else responded that and said that that's not really what this is. Like, it felt like that right out the gate. You're like, wait a minute. The Braves got 1 catcher, but they sent out 3 really good prospects and William Contreras. The Braves got fleeced. Another guy responded with this quote. It's more like it is more like Atlanta, Oakland, and Milwaukee all put in $20. The Braves and the Brewers walked away with 30, and the Oakland Athletics walked away with a bunch of ones that came out of a strip club. And I was like, that's actually a really fair comparison. The Braves got better with the addition of Sean Murphy. There's no doubt about that. The Braves are a better baseball club with Sean Murphy, even if you're giving up Contreras. But remember, Contreras was best as a DH. Sean Murphy's got the same numbers in the DH role, but is also a better defensive player, a better catcher. He's more reliable behind the dish. I don't know what this means for the future of Travis d'Arnaud. We'll address that later on if you're a Braves fan. What I will say is the Braves got better. In order for the Braves to get better, though, Milwaukee got better too. The Milwaukee Brewers walked away with the most talent out of this trade. But at the end of the day, this was a situation where in order for Atlanta to get better, they had to let Milwaukee get a little bit more better. Milwaukee added more to their lineup. There is no arguing with that. Getting out of there with Contreras and 2 of the highest rated, including the Braves' #1 pitching prospect. Walking out of there with that looks like an absolute haul because it is. Because it is. But the Braves were addressing a specific need behind the dish and added an all-star caliber catcher in the process. So it's one of those situations where while you may have given up a little bit more in the overall grand picture, you really needed this one thing. This one thing could be made instantly better, which would help your team next year. Those prospects that the Braves gave up were prospects. Means they were prospectively going to be good. There was no guarantee that either Yeager or Payamps was going to be good. There is already empirical evidence that Sean Murphy is. So the Braves added a right now better piece defensively, and it didn't cost them anything at the dish to do it. The Brewers added potential long-term pitching help, and it was all at the victimization of Oakland. It worked out great. I'm not trying to look at this through red and blue colored glasses here. And the Braves still have work to do. Still got to find a shortstop. Still got to find a left fielder. But this allows you to utilize Travis d'Arnaud in a DH role to improve your catching defense and not lose anything from Contreras at the dish there. You still need a shortstop and a left fielder, but this is one of those times that I think fans get in their head. They're like, okay, we need a shortstop and a left fielder. It's like, yeah, you do. I'm not disagreeing with that. Because the longer it goes without Dansby signing somewhere, for me, it seems the less likely he's going to sign. It's like Freddie Freeman It's like that situation all over again. Every day that went by that Freddie Freeman wasn't a Brave was a day closer to my belief that he would not be a Brave, and that turned out to be accurate. I feel the same way with Dansby Swanson. Every day that Dansby Swanson is not an Atlanta Brave is a day that his agent is going to have other teams whispering in his ear, making the deal seem sweeter elsewhere. You need a shortstop, you need a left fielder. I'm not disagreeing. But to say we need a shortstop and left fielder, and so that's all we should be focusing on, nah, it's too single-minded. That's too single-minded. You got to do better than that, and I think the Braves did. I think the Braves walk out of here with a grade of an A on the trade. I think the Brewers walk out with a grade of an A+ on the trade, and I think Oakland walks out with the trade of a D. It's pretty solid. It's pretty solid effort all around. I know there are a lot of Braves fans that are panicking right now, but here's the thing. Just because a position is not the most imminent position does not mean that you shouldn't always be on the lookout for an upgrade. And we're going to have the same conversation coming up about Shane Beamer in a minute. There comes a point where I think even the most cynical of us have to go, you know what, this guy's done a really good job. Even though I disagree with this decision, I'm going to let it ride, right? I'm going to trust him. Alex Anthopoulos has done such a remarkable job as general manager for the Atlanta Braves over the past 3 years that even though on its surface, I looked at this trade and I'm like, I don't necessarily love it. I was like, let me think about this. Let me spin it around a little bit. The more I thought about it, the more I go, it's not bad. It's not bad. Speaking of Shane Beamer, let's talk about him when we come back here in just a minute. I want to get into this just a little bit. We have been waiting on the announcement of the offensive coordinator that will replace Marcus Satterfield. We just saw the loss of Marshawn Lloyd. I told you yesterday, I thought he was hitting the portal. He announced that he has. Is there something going on in South Carolina right now that we have a new OC? Should you be panicking about Shane Beamer? Or are you going to hashtag trust the process TM? We'll talk about that when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Carolina's brand is a physical, smash-mouth style of football that involves a heavy dose of the run game. We saw that Sunday. The Panthers ran 46 times for more than 220 yards. Chuba Hubbard, a big part of it, he chipped into the season-high 74 rush yards on the ground.
Running the ball is just a big part of our identity. We have to give a lot of credit to O-line, just dominating those boys. Like you said.
Yeah, I saw Dansby got married. I'm happy for him, man.
How great job the O-line does.
And I don't know if you saw, but Freddie Freeman was actually in his wedding party. I'm telling you, like, I don't know that I can be convinced otherwise. I think Freddie hurts having left Atlanta. And again, I don't blame him, and I don't think he should blame himself. was an ugly situation all around, disappointing situation all around. But it definitely looks to me like Freddie misses being in Atlanta. I'll put it that way.
In the last two games, Carolina's rushed the ball 92 times for more than 400 yards. It's resulted in the first win streak of 2022. I'm Manish Shroff on the Carolina Panthers Radio Network, presented by Morris Jenkins.
With BetQL. Sometimes in hockey, it pays to fade a team on the puck line. This year, that team is the New York Rangers. The Rangers score about as much as they give up, which means the games are usually close. That makes them an ideal team to fade on the puck line, and in fact, they are just 8-18 this season against the spread. As they're basically a 500 team, I don't see this trend changing in the future. Fade the Rangers, and thank you later. I'm Tristan Crick, helping you.
You think she did that once and then she was like, that's my new tagline?
Is an eye for detail. Because when safety and well-being are on the line, it's the details that can save lives. Even when no one else is watching, you see everything. Ranger gets you, and we're here for you.
That sounds good to you.
You know. A wide range of safety products and solutions, plus board-certified safety consultants here to answer your questions. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds powerful technology.
Tim said I would have signed my contract before I got married. Dansby lacking on community property laws.
Finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job in ZipRecruiter
see that's been my strategy all along, Tim, is I'm just gonna stay poor as hell until I get married. I signed a prenup. It means she's gonna owe me something. When we got together, when I started dating the lady friend, one of the first things we did was have a conversation about our red flags, right? Like, here are all the issues with me that everyone I've ever dated has had with me. And I told her out of the gate, I was like, I don't make a lot of money. I hope I will one day. But if I do, that day is going to be in the future. And if you're not okay with that, it's totally fine. I won't judge you for walking away. But she told me she saw my potential. And that's sweet. She doesn't say that anymore, but she used to. And if you're watching, I'm kidding, Courtney. That's a joke.
If you're a Clemson or South Carolina fan, let me tell you, Smith & James has the nicest looking team here you've seen. It's fresh and unique, and you don't have to worry about everyone else having your shirts. Better yet, people will be asking you where you got it. How do we know? Because we're wearing Smith & James, and they're asking us. Check out their selection today at smithandjames.com. Stop by their stores in downtown Greer and on Verde Boulevard in Greenville.
Sponsored by Taco Bell. The rumors are true. Nacho fries are back at Taco
Did you say I'm poor in money, but I'm rich in love? Did you say that?
No, that would have been a better line. I just said I'm poor. I said I will be rich one day, but today is not that day.
I used to sell poetry for like $25. So, you know.
Poetry?
Yeah, actually I did.
Really?
I had all these guys at work would bring me, it's like, tell me something about the relationship. Tell me something about what you want to say, and I'll write it for you, but you got to rewrite it. Because you can't use my handwriting.
Don't cheat. Show your work.
Made a little side money that way.
Oh, I ain't judging that at all. That's a good hustle if you've got good wordplay. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate. Yesterday, Sports Illustrated, via their website, Fan Nation, reported that Dow Logans, I think it's Loggins, is the correct pronunciation.
Let's go with Loggins. Exactly.
Okay.
I don't think we can get flagged for that rendition, so we're probably good.
According to Brandon Marcello of 24/7 Sports, South Carolina is finalizing a deal with Arkansas tight end coach Dow Loggins, who will take that job and find himself a place to stay in Columbia, South Carolina. Loggins, as we broke down last week when his name popped up as a potential and likely candidate, has taken multiple stops in the NFL calling plays. Something that Shane Beamer has said is important to him. Of course, he was terrible at it. In fact, at one point, about 3 years ago, Dow Loggins was cited as the worst offensive coordinator in the National Football League. Beamer said he took his time in the search process after Marcus Satterfield left to go to Nebraska. I have told you my belief is that Sat is in Nebraska because it was a way to get him out without publicly firing him, right? If Matt Rule will take you, it'll save you the embarrassment and us the embarrassment of having to pink slip you. Enjoy Nebraska, Sat. There was thought that Arkansas offensive coordinator Kendall Briles might be that choice, but according to 24/7, Beamer and Carolina zeroed in on Loggins early in the process. I'm about to throw this chair out the window, Lonzo. Gamecocks were looking for somebody.
I dare you.
It's a double pane window. I don't have that.
Yeah,
much.
I was going to say. It's just, I don't think
I
you
might
know
throw
the
chair
right angle.
at the window.
There you go.
Carolina zeroed in on Loggins early in the process, according to 24/7. The Gamecocks were looking for somebody that they trusted to get the ball into the hands of their playmakers, something that for a good chunk of the season this year didn't really seem to happen that much or as much as Carolina fans would have liked to, which is the reason that Jaheim Bell is now a Florida State Seminole after he announced that he was signing with Mike Norvell's squad yesterday. And the reason that just about 3 hours after I told you, you should expect Marshawn Lloyd's name in the transfer portal, it was announced that Marshawn Lloyd was in the transfer portal. Loggins comes in as a guy that has failed everywhere as an offensive coordinator, but they were all NFL gigs. As we have pointed out, there are some guys that are just meant to be college guys, and there are some guys that are just meant to be pro guys. And there is a very, very, very small subsection of dudes that are good enough to do it at both levels. Dow Loggins is not in that subsection. Okay? Problem is, we don't know if he's a good college football offensive coordinator because he hadn't done it yet, right? So I was having a conversation yesterday evening with a buddy of mine who's a Gamecock fan who was like, Rob, tell me, give me anything. Give me one reason that I should believe that this is a good hire.
There's an easy answer, but I want to hear what yours is.
I bet it's what you're thinking. What I said was Shane Beamer took over the HC job with no experience as head coach. I'd say you're relatively happy with his performance thus far, correct? And he said, yes. I said, okay. Well, if there's anybody who would know the signs of success for a guy taking the first role without having experience in that role elsewhere in a smaller environment, would be the guy who did that, right? Like if you accomplished it, then you might be a better judge of someone else that is capable of accomplishing it than a guy who didn't accomplish it. I think I've got a half decent eye for dudes that want to get into this game that I go, that guy right there can make it. That guy could do this. But that's because I scratched from quite literally the bottom story to get to where I am now in the Palatial Fan Upstate Studios. Shano did that. But then he hit me back, so with, right, Rob, but Shane grew up the son of a Hall of Fame caliber coach in Frank Beamer. Shane has worked under some all-time great coaches. And though it wasn't as a coordinator or an HC, he did work very closely with a number of top-tier college football coaches and did so at the SEC level. He has infinitely more experience, at least around top-tier OCs and HCs, than Dowell Loggins does, who comes from mid-Arkansas, where he's been for 3 seasons as a tight end coach. And you know what my argument against that was, Lonzo? You know what the argument I hit him back was in that regard was? I don't have one.
See, it's funny because I guess I'm just meaner. But what I would have said is, how come nepotism's okay when it fits your narrative? Because suddenly nepotism's all right. Well, he was the son of where, you know, in another case, if it's something you don't like, well, he only got his job because of who his dad is. Okay. The other thing is, I want to quote 2 professional wrestlers because we haven't done that today. One would be Daniel Bryan. He was Daniel Bryan when he said this, so I can go with it there. The other would be MJF. Fans are fickle, okay? You're fickle. You get all upset about, well, they didn't do what I wanted them to do, so it's the wrong choice. Why don't you let it play out? This could be the best choice ever made in the history of mankind. You don't know until it happens. I know you can look at the history, and as you pointed out, Loggins has not been successful in the NFL.
Anywhere.
But he kept getting hired. Why was that? Most places, if you fail, you don't get hired again for the same job that you failed at. But he got hired multiple times and has managed to keep jobs. Why is that? Maybe he's just really good at interviewing, or maybe there's something there. Maybe Shane sees something there, and give him a year before you. Some people want to condemn and they just want to whine and complain all the time. Give someone a chance, man.
Here's the problem with that. I 90% of the time, absolutely agree.
Fickle.
90% of the time, I absolutely agree with what you just said. Here's the problem. South Carolina has been trying to have a season like they just had since Steve Spurrier left, right?
Yeah, but Will Muschamp happened.
Right. But the statement still remains true. South Carolina's football program has been trying to have a year like they just had for a lot of years in a row. You knocked off Clemson. You smoked a top 5 team in Tennessee. You went 2 over your expected season win total. You made a prestige bowl. You're going to be playing in prime time in that bowl game. This has been what South Carolina has been trying to accomplish for a couple of years. And especially coming off the win over your in-state rivals, there's a lot of momentum in Columbia right now. The last thing that you want to do is derail momentum when you just got it. You know, if the Kansas City Chiefs go and they win 7 games and then they lose 2 or 3 in a row, does anybody panic? No. Because Kansas City has shown that a little bit of a setback doesn't really do all that much, right? They're going to turn it around because they know what the hell they're doing. They're going to be just fine. So nobody shies away from Kansas City. If South Carolina next year comes out with Dowell Loggins running the offense and goes back to being mid as an offense, then all of the momentum the Gamecocks have built goes away. And along with that, goes away the recruiting high that they're on right now.
But he also will take the blame for players entering the portal and not being there, important players. And so now you got a scapegoat. Now you're going to blame this guy, even though you lost some really good players.
The loss of Jaheim Bell is going to be big. I know that you don't believe me because he wasn't involved this year, but as we pointed out, there was a reason for that. It's not going to be big for what he did at South Carolina you don't have. I'm going to go ahead and call
I'm still, you're not going to sell me on him. You're
That's
just
fine.
not.
I won't sell him on you this year. But Alexa, set a reminder for December 13th, 2023. Jaheim Bell is a Florida State Seminole now. Jaheim Bell is going to well more than double every number he had at South Carolina while he's at Florida State.
And I'm not willing to bet anything because we know that doesn't go well for me. But I will bet he will be transferring after next year to find another school because Florida State doesn't use him right.
Mike
in his
Norvell
opinion.
in that offense will have Jaheim Bell in that first or second round draft pick slot that I expect him to ultimately be in.
So you think he's a bigger loss than Marshawn Lloyd?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. The loss of Marshawn Lloyd is certainly not good. And I'm interested to see how Juju and CBS handle themselves in the bowl game, both moving up on the depth chart by one. Jaheim Bell is going to be a loss South Carolina talks about for a long time. Thing is, you're not going to pin that on, to me, I'm not going to pin that on Loggins. I'm going to pin that on Sack.
Yeah, but you're talking about the loss in the bowl. But but if there
I'm
is
talking about the loss of those two playmakers, I pin on Marcus Satterfield.
If there's a drop off next year, and this may not, there may be more. Who knows? The portal's not closed yet, is it? Or will it ever? So then they may lose some more. So if the Gamecocks come out and they have a slump and they don't play as well as they did this year, and suddenly that upward trend goes downward, you're going to blame you. I'm talking about fans in general.
Oh, you
are going to
can say
blame.
me. I'm fine with
You're going to blame Loggins and not look at the fact that he doesn't have the same players that he thought he was going to get when he got hired.
Well, first off, no, because Jaheim Bell's been in the portal for well over
Or
a
maybe
week
this
at
dude
this
is a
point.
really good recruiter. Maybe he goes out and grabs some guys that make you go, oh, yeah, they used to play here, didn't they?
That's the primary selling point, is that Dowell Loggins has been defined as a really good recruiter, a guy who is very adept at going out and finding high school talent and bringing in, oh, by the way, recruiting now includes recruiting kids in the portal, one of whom is Devin Leary, the quarterback from NC State last year, who has entered the portal, and South Carolina has already put in a call to him. Does that mean Spencer Rattler is out? Don't know. Does that mean we could have a QB competition next year? Don't know. I do find it interesting. We'll break that down later on. But what I'm saying here is that if you're looking for a reason to believe that this is a good hire, or at least not a bad hire, you have two things you can go on. One of them is that if there's a dude who can see that there are certain character traits, certain abilities, certain tendencies that a guy who's never been at this elevated of a role can step in and just succeed out the gate, right? Just succeed out the gate. Then it's a guy who's done that. Shane Beamer's done that. No OC coordinator, no OC experience, no HC experience, stepped in a role at South Carolina and has done just fine. Again, there's an argument against that he was around Frank Beamer as a kid, that he has been around top-tier programs and top-tier coaches throughout his entire career. So he does have experience, even if he doesn't have experience.
There's only one place where that really is noticeable, and that's special teams. I mean, you notice that.
Beamer ball.
Yeah, you notice that.
I agree with that. But, noticing or not noticing a thing does not necessarily mean that the thing exists or does not exist.
That sounds like me in high school.
Not getting noticed?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we're tied now.
So the thing you can look at there is go, okay, if Shane knows what it's like to not have experience and then succeed at an elevated role, then maybe he sees something out of Dowell Loggins that he goes, oh, that guy reminds me of me, right? I don't think Loggins has the experience that Beamer has as someone who's been around top tier stuff, right? Again, he was at Arkansas this year, a team that had high expectations out of the gate and then just failed to meet them. But I think if you're the Gamecocks, the other element of this is, and I for the record, hate this. I hate this because mainly I can't argue with you. The only other thing you can say to me right now, and we've already got a texter who's done it. Texter said, I trust Beamer. If you want Beamer to cook in the kitchen, then you got to let him buy the groceries. He has his guy. Let them work and let's ride. That's cocky for a reason, texting into the show.
Shouldn't use let's ride.
I was going to say.
Yeah, that's kind of dooming thing.
You don't really want to go that road.
Yeah, you don't want to.
Gamecock country. Let's ride. That argument, I can't argue with you, right? Like, I trust Beamer. If you want him to cook, you got to let him buy the groceries. Like, yeah, you're right. But if I ask the lady friend to cook dinner, she's like, what do you want? And I'm like, chicken cordon bleu. And she goes, great, I'm going to go buy the groceries. And she comes home with steaks and mashed potatoes. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get a good chicken cordon bleu. Now, she might go, I know better. And I know that while you say you want this, what you really want is this. And she might even be right.
I was going to say, she might take the first bite and go, man, why did I want that other thing for?
Yeah. If she asks what I want and I say chicken cordon bleu, one of my favorite meals, and she comes home with steak and potatoes, I can be certain that I will not be getting the chicken cordon bleu that I want. However, as I trust her in the kitchen, and she trusts me in the kitchen because damn can Rob cook. Look at me. I trust her in the kitchen. She might come home and go, I know you said you wanted this, but when I prep this, you're going to thank me. It's not what you wanted, but you're going to love this more. She might throw together a hell of a meal that I go, I'm not even thinking about chicken cordon bleu anymore because this is so good.
I just got to say, there's nothing more 1%er than chicken cordon bleu.
It's just chicken stuffed with cheese.
No, it's good. There's ham in there.
Oh, yes, ham. The 1%er meal of choice is ham, chicken, and cheese.
Well, it comes from Fancy Pigs.
I don't know how to respond to that, frankly. If you think 1%er is chicken, ham, and cheese.
Yeah, you're trying to put it that way, but you know that it's not.
Because you rolled them together?
Because it's French.
So if I just called
and
it...
French means snooty, and snooty means 1%er.
First off, French means delicious. But if we change the name to chicken rolled up with ham and cheese, would that be better?
It's not rolled up, it's stuffed. I mean, they got to split the breast, and they got to put there's a lot of work involved.
Joe and Greer text in, said, I'm pretty sure Arkansas beat the Gamecocks this year. Could be partially what Shane saw during that game. It could be. Could be. But again, Dowell Loggins was not the offensive coordinator at Arkansas. He was the tight ends coach, right? Now, maybe Dowell Loggins had a major impact on the offense, and his voice was heard in the coordinator's room, and he had a heavy influence on the offense, and Shane knows that. And again, there's a lot of reasons that the argument of I trust Shane to make the decision and produce a product that I want, I don't have to agree with it, but it's hard to argue back against. Texture says, does Beamer know how the sausage is made? We about to find out, ain't we? We about to find out. So it's not recruiting anymore. It's one time a year free agency. In a year or two, we will have kids transferring twice a year. No, you won't. No, you won't.
Probably will. They said this would never happen, and it has. So, things change. They do, Rob.
Texture says, Alexa, reminder, I bet SC's tight end halfback will double Jaheim Bell's production from this past year. Cocky for a reason. I'll take that bet.
Shouldn't be too hard, actually.
I will take that bet. Jaheim Bell next year in Tallahassee is going to show you why he's considered a first-round pick. Because he'll have an OC that goes, yeah, we should probably put the ball in the hands of that monster. Let's take a break, come back, wrap up this hour on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Digga.
Panthers have a two-game winning streak and put that to the test this Sunday. They're home against the Steelers. The 5-8 Panthers still in the race for the top spot in the NFC South. 6-7 Tampa Bay ahead of them. The 5-8 Falcons also in the mix. College hoops tonight, 6:30 tip-off for the Furman Paladins at NC State.
Come on, Diesel. Turn stuff down, dude. More people in this
room
than you.
Turning stuff down? Oh, your speakers.
This doesn't even make. Why would you turn the Q speaker down? Or the preview speaker, rather.
Be right back, stream.
And I would highly recommend AmericanEagle.com.
Call AmericanEagle.com at 773-NETWORK. That's AmericanEagle.com, 773-NETWORK. Dell Technologies Days of Deals for Business start now.
Did you make the mac and cheese Mark destroyed at the Christmas party? I did not. I made nothing for the Christmas party. I simply relieved them of the weight of a particular bottle of rum before they left. And this was my favorite part.
I'm guessing it was catered. I didn't go.
It very much was. Although I'm going to tell you, Steve Sinacroppy brought a broiled barbecue. I think it was chicken. That was freaking delicious. And that's not me kissing the boss's butt. It was good. Best part of the night for me, or I should say funniest part of the night for me, was as we were leaving, Roy, our production guy, comes up to my trunk with a big cooler, and he just puts it in the trunk and he goes, take this and bring it back to work on Monday. I opened the cooler. There were about 65 Bud Lights in the back of that truck. I was like, what? Roy, how much do you think I drink? Skrilla jumped on the Facebook stream, which you can watch at facebook.com/thefanupstate, twitter.com/thefanupstate, or by searching and subscribing to the Rob Brown Show on YouTube and on Twitch. He said, so when does it turn from hashtag trust the process to hashtag blame Shane? I would say if Loggins has back-to-back years where the Gamecocks are stuck back at 6-6, right? You have gotten to 8-4. That is a step above where we expected, right? But go back. I heard somebody the other day, and I won't name names, say the expectations before this year started were 8-4. I was like, no. Whose expectations were 8-4 before this year started? Mine were, I expect 6-6. Anything less than 6-6 is an abject failure. 7-5 is a realistic expectation. 8-4 in the most optimistic way. And let's be honest. Knocking off Tennessee and Clemson at the end of the year back-to-back, especially coming off of losses to Mizzou and Florida, was a shock. Does anybody declare the win over Tennessee anything less than a shock for the Gamecocks? No. And again, nobody not wearing garnet picked South Carolina to beat Clemson either, but they did. 8-4 was a very optimistic possibility. They got there, but it was not the expectation. All right? It just wasn't. It wasn't the expectation. If the team backtracks to 6-6 in 1 year, we might be able to write off a little bit, right? All right, you lost some players in the portal. We're still waiting to see who gets picked up in the portal. We're going to see what the finalized recruiting class looks like in February. A step back to 6-6 would hurt. I would definitely say it is a hindrance on the program. I wouldn't say it's an abject failure. If South Carolina can't get past 7 wins in the next 2 years, you've walked yourself into a problem. Because then I think you look at the program and you go, okay, we got a never the bride, always the bridesmaid, never the bride situation here. A guy that's going to get us to where we're like okay with it every year, but never past that. And at some point, you got to move on past it. Right? It's like every time a coach is a consistent 9-3, 10-2 coach, and he gets fired, and people are like, wait a minute, you know how many teams would dream of 10-2? I know who doesn't. A team that's 10-2 every year. At some point, you get tired of 10-2. It's like, all right, I'll celebrate 10-2, but damn, man, I'd like to be in a playoff game eventually. Well, you got to 8-4. That's not to say that 8-4 will be my expectation going into next year. I don't know what my expectation will be going into next year. There's a lot of time between here and there, but I will say
expectations should be same or better, shouldn't they?
Theoretically, you would think, okay, you were 8-4. You should not be worse than 8-4.
And you've had an upward trend since you've been there. So
Absolutely.
The next step should be competing for the East.
Absolutely. I will see what the team shapes up to look like next year. The East is tough. Georgia's going to be real good again next year, too. Josh Heupel's got Tennessee on the upward swing. Even if South Carolina did beat them, that was the exception. That was the anomaly, not the rule.
Or do you now shoot for being good enough to make it in the 12-team playoff?
You got one more year.
I know.
You got one more year. I would think that there's going to be a lot of teams that go top 12. We expect top 12. Expect top 12. With the hire of Dow Loggins, I think Shane Beamer has elevated his responsibility for what this program looks like. It's on him now, right? Because I can't imagine a world in which anybody else, Ray Tanner included, looked at Dow Loggins and went, that's the cat we want. That's the dude we're looking at. I think there were a lot of other names that South Carolina fans would have preferred as OC. And maybe at the end of the day, none of those guys would have ultimately been available. But in this hire, Shane Beamer has now signed his name with accepted responsibility to the future of the program. And what Loggins does, that's on Shane's head. Good, bad, or ugly. Back after this for the third hour of the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
This update is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with our easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. College football has lost one of its best coaches and its best personalities, Mike Leach, passing away at just 61. Mississippi State made the announcement last hour saying Leach suffered from complications of a heart condition. Testing today will confirm a suspected torn right ACL for Cardinals QB Kyler Murray. He was hurt on the third play of Monday Night Football, putting Colt McCoy under center.
I'm thankful to be on this team, on this squad. I love the guys that we have. We've battled injuries all year long. And the guys that are going to go in there, they're going to fight to the very end. I don't think there's any more than you can ask for, and I'd be proud to go lead them.
McCoy had Arizona.
All I can say is if you play Call of Duty, look out. Someone's got some extra time on their hands, and, you know, I'm guessing that, you know, will help with some pain and some rehab.
That is a ridiculous stat. The Celtics are 30 games deep and just failed to hit 100 for the first time. That's ridiculous.
It's also scary. It doesn't mean that they're going to win at all.
No, but it means you're going to have a hell of an effort to beat them in a series.
It could mean that, you know, everyone they play has no defense also. Do they still play defense in the NBA?
Turns out you are allowed to. That does shock some people.
You're right, Steven.
Hey.
You learn words and phrases you actually use in real conversations. In 3 weeks, I was starting to speak in another language. So easy.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than Babbel. Go to Babbel.
Hello.
To try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
We've got the perfect gift for that golf lover in your family. The 2023 Upstate Golf Card.
Uh-oh, why is he trending? Please don't tell me he's hurt.
Who? Patrick?
Pacheco.
Ah.
Okay, so he's just trending because of how he runs the ball, which he should be trending because that dude is
He
angry.
runs hard.
He is angry. Or he may be trending because NFL Network has this thing called Angry Runs. And they send a scepter to whoever does it. He was on Angry Run. It's a pretty good bit.
I like it.
Kyle Brandt gets worked up. I think he's going to die when he does it. No, I mean, seriously, dude gets out of breath. But he lost out to Shaq getting knocked in the tree.
Oh,
they put that on Angry Runs. As soon as I
So
saw that,
good.
I was like, man, Pacheco he just got messed over, man.
Let's be real. Kenny absolutely
Well,
worked Shaq.
yeah, it's a smart move on their part because they send a scepter to all the players, and the players take pictures or videos and send
Right.
it back to them, which helps that show. And it
Oh, yeah.
also, so now they're trying to get Kenny to do it on the set of, which he probably will,
Oh, yeah, he will.
but that will upstage Shaq twice. And if he does that, he's going to pay for that even more so.
Shaq ain't finna stand for that.
If the roles were reversed, Kenny would have been
Kenny would've
knocked
gone
through
the
that tree.
and
Yes.
then through the wall.
Yes.
Kenny only won that because he knew what he was going to do and set Shaq up for it.
I'm still not so sure it wasn't a work because we know Shaq can wrestle.
I don't care if it is. It's hilarious.
Might have been some padding underneath that tree back in there. We couldn't see. It was pretty deep.
If you needed to pad it from Shaq, it'd have needed to be a mattress on top of another mattress. He's a large man.
He is. Put what up on stream, Kevin? The video of Kenny and Shaq? Or
Yeah, next break, remind me, Kevin. I'll go pull it up for you. Be happy to. Because it's gold.
Now we roll. He did. He's tied for the most, which is 4. Not surprised you know that, Kevin.
They just showed when Mike Leach had a picture in his office of his head wearing a head coach's headset, photoshopped onto a nude male body, laid out on a couch. Mike Leach was the best. Just the best, man. Like a hell of a coach. But damn, I would have loved like 30 minutes with Mike Leach. Mainly Lonzo, because in 30 minutes with Mike Leach.
30 minutes to talk to
Yeah.
him, yes.
Mainly because you'd have asked him one question. Hey, Mike, how do you feel about the continued growth of the air raid offense in college football? And he'd have given you 29 and a half minutes.
What a wasted time that would have been for you, because I would have asked him or told him about my campaign against artificial intelligence and would ask him for his opinion on AI and the future of the planet, and it would have been golden.
Dude, you could have asked Mike about the air raid offense, and he probably would have worked his opinion on AI into his answer.
I know earlier in the year
and pirates and ninjas and samurai and everything else.
I know at ACC Media Days you were talking about Nick Saban and the question that people ask him about, his superpower, and you were thought it was a waste of time, someone asking him that question. But would it have been a waste of time to ask Mike Leach anything about anything?
No, there's no question you could have asked Mike Leach that. But like with Saban, anything that's not a football question is a waste of time.
I'm guessing the media room would argue amongst themselves about who was going to ask the goofball question to Mike Leach. They probably had to draw numbers or something.
No, I don't think there's any spot where anybody who got a chance to ask a question wouldn't have. Nick Saban, you asked football questions to predominantly because, A, it's all Bama fans care about. And B, if you ask Nick Saban about anything that's not football, you're going to get a boring story that involves Miss Terry and then, but let's talk about football at the end. Mike Leach, you could ask the best football question in the world, and the answer is going to involve pirates and artificial intelligence and why eloping is better than having a wedding ceremony. There was a lot to it. A lot to it. All right. Let's get to the third hour of the show. A lot of stuff that we need to get into, a lot of stuff that we need to talk about as we get into the third hour today. If you want to be a part of it, 844-FAN phone, 844-FANFONE, 844-326-3663. Text us on the Preferred Home Services text line at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N. Cocky for a reason text back into the show. He said speculation about future wins and $4 will get you a coffee in the morning.
I don't drink coffee. That sounds kind of cheap, though, doesn't
I
it?
don't either. I'm not a coffee guy. I've tried all the coffees. There's no good coffee. There's none. The lady friend hit me with one the other day that was like some kind of mocha with, I guess, Kenny Chesney. She's a big Kenny Chesney fan. He's coming here in, what is it, April, I think, and we got tickets.
Do all fancy coffees have to have mocha in them?
I don't know, dude. I don't do coffee. So she got one, and she's like, right, but it's like this, and I put this special rum in it, and it's this, and I tried it, and I'm like, you know what it tastes like? Freaking coffee. It just tastes like coffee. She's like, no, it doesn't taste like coffee. It tastes like mocha. I'm like, that's all coffee. Anyway. The point of speculation here was Skrilla asked what I think is a legitimate question, which is, at what point in the future of Gamecock football do South Carolina fans take it from trust the process to blame Shane? And I gave you my thoughts on it. My thoughts are, if you have back-to-back seasons where you go below 8-4, one of the next two's got to be 8-4. You'd love to see that turn into a 9-3. And before you start thinking that's ridiculous, hey, Lonzo, was Missouri a beatable football team for the Gamecocks this year?
Should have been
9-3. Hey, Lonzo, was Florida a beatable football team for the Gamecocks this year?
That team? Yes, for sure.
10-2. All they got to do is beat the two teams they were expected to beat. If they beat the two teams they're expected to beat, even if they lose to Tennessee and Clemson, they're still 8-4. That team is two absolute brain farts away from being 10-2. Now, it probably wouldn't have scratched that. It would not have gotten you into the playoffs this year. But 2 years from now, Lonzo, 10-2 is going to get you into the playoffs out of the Southeastern Conference. So my thought would be that you have got, effectively, if you're South Carolina, because of the expanded playoffs, you have got 2 seasons to take South Carolina from, 8-4. What a ridiculously shocking shocker, to 8-4. We did not meet expectations this year. To go from 8-4, let's throw a hell of a party because we beat Tennessee and Clemson, to 8-4, hey, Georgia, we're on the way. 10-2, hey, Georgia, we're on the way. Whatever. That's where the speculation comes in. Is what do you expect out of this team over the next 2 seasons? Not next year, not in the bowl game. And I'll bring that up here in just a reason why. But by 2024, Lonzo, 10-2 needs to be the expectation, right? Like, I think it's fair over the next 2 years that we have a season that we go in going 8-4 is the expectation. We expect to be 8-4. Anything less than 8-4, we will consider a massive disappointment. And then what 8-4 was this year, which is, okay, an unrealistic expectation, but an expectation nonetheless. 8-4 needs to go from being an unrealistic expectation to the expectation. And what was the feel of 8-4 going into this year of, ball bounces our way and we get a couple we shouldn't, and maybe we can be 8-4. We need to feel that way about 10-2. And you got 2 years to get there. Because again, 10-2 out of the SEC will get you into the college football playoffs. Now, there will be 11 other teams that can say that they've made the college football playoffs. not 3 other teams. But step 1 to winning a title is to what? Punch a ticket to the dance, man. You can't be the prom queen if you're not invited to the prom. Get in the dance, and we'll work on that tiara next. That's the speculation. The question was, how does this impact the view of South Carolina fans on Shane Beamer? And my answer is right now, today, Lonzo, shouldn't impact it all that much.
But it does.
Sure, because listen, I would be lying to tell you that I have questions. And I will own it. Unlike a lot of other radio hosts, when Rob Brown screws it up on the radio, he'll own it. When South Carolina hired Shane Beamer, I went, what the hell is this? What is this? No experience. You're hiring a dude because he's got his daddy's last name. I was wrong. They saw something in Shano that I did not. A guy with no OC, no HC experience came in and has absolutely performed up to expectations. I was wrong. And maybe I'm wrong about this hire too. But I am not wrong about one thing. The one thing that I am not wrong about is that with this hiring, Shane Beamer has signed on a dotted line that says, I accept more responsibility for the direction of this program and the consequences of where this program ends over the next couple of years. If Dow Loggins comes in next year, and Loggins does not know how to dial up the offense, especially after seeing what the offense looked like against Tennessee and looked like against Clemson, even with the loss of Jaheim Bell and Marshawn, if the offense comes in and it goes back to being flat, it goes back to being uninspired, it goes back to being needlessly overcomplicated, and all the other traits that were the traits of a Marcus Satterfield offense. At that point, you can't put it anywhere else, right? Like, I think with a Sat hire, you could at least go, well, this was a decision that would have been made with all the voices in the athletic department connected to the football program, Shane's included. This hire, this is Shane's. This is his call. It's his guy. It's his decision. The success or failure of this guy, his call, his decision is squarely on his head and nobody else's. And for the record, that goes both ways. If Loggins comes in and week 7, week 8, week 9 of next year, Spencer or Leary or whoever is under center looks like a Heisman candidate, and whoever RB1 is in the running for whatever awards, and South Carolina's a top 10 offense, Shane can absolutely get that flower, right? He shall be crowned the OC whisperer at that point. It goes both ways. If Loggins comes in and is a spectacular play caller, then Shane Beamer will get that credit from me. But if he comes in and South Carolina goes back to what they were the first 10 games of this season instead of what they were the last 2, that's also on him. You get the credit if it goes right. You get the blame if it goes wrong.
Yeah, but they still won more games than they lost in the scenario you're talking about.
100%.
So they could come in and be worse than that.
Here's my question. As mentioned, do the wins, and this is not me setting anybody up. I'm asking this as a genuine question. It's not a setup, Lonzo, because I already see the eyes like, oh no.
It's a work.
This is a genuine question. Do the wins over Tennessee and Clemson to get to 8-4 take away from the disappointment of the losses to Missouri and Florida?
Absolutely.
Do they?
Without a doubt. Yes.
I don't feel that way.
Because the direction that things were going made it look like that's how the season would end, as everyone predicted, with a couple losses. And it went the opposite direction. Not only that, I mean, what they did to Tennessee was just an amazing thing that lets you know the potential of what they could be. And then beating the rival, even by 1 point, is still a win. And yeah, I think wins almost always overshadow losses if they come at the end of the season. If you put those same two losses that you're talking about as the last two games, then it's a different scenario. But because you had two big wins at the end of the season, it erases some of that pain.
Let's do another hypothetical. Let's flip.
Wait, you're not supposed to do that on radio.
I do whatever the hell I want.
Okay. I guess you're just not an arbiter.
Let's flip the order of those away, right? Let's say that instead of losses to Mizzou and Florida followed by wins over Tennessee and Clemson, let's flip those around. Let's say South Carolina beats Tennessee, beats Clemson, then loses to Missouri, then loses to Florida to go 8-4.
That's what I just said. I said it's different if they were reversed.
I'm asking what the opinion is. What's the emotional feel for Gamecock fans if they set up and they go, guys, we win two more, we're 10-2.
Yeah,
and they drop two stupid games.
Yeah, then you're upset because you lost the last two games, but they didn't. They won the last two games. One was a rival, and one was a beatdown of Tennessee.
This is the football version of recency bias to me. Like, we're ignoring a couple of things that went really bad in favor of heightening the most recent things that went really good.
No, this is optimism versus pessimism, and this is so many levels of psychology here. You're dwelling on the negative. I'm dwelling on the positive. They won the last two games. That would, by most people's standards, mark an improvement from those losses, that they figured something out and were able to win. That's bigger than those losses any day.
South Carolina fans, I'll ask you guys now. Phone lines open, 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. Or text us your answer to the Preferred Home Services text line at 71307. With the hire of Dow Loggins as your new OC, and this being a Shane pick, what are your thoughts on Shane from here? Is it 100% trust? Hey, he beat Clemson. I don't really care. I expect 8-4 next year, and this is on him whether it works out or not. Like, what are your thoughts overall? Texture said, Rob, I expect recruiting to continue to improve. I expect 10 wins. I expect 3 wins against Clemson in the next 5 years. I expect a college football berth within the next 3 to 4 years.
Which will be easier to do once it goes to 12.
Sure. 10-2 in the SEC will get you into the playoffs more often than it won't. Maybe not every time, but 10-2 will get you into the playoffs more often than it will not. So are we now setting 10 wins as the expectation? And it's fair if you are. All right. Let's take a break. Got a couple more things that I want to get into coming up in a minute. We're going to get to the Greg Berhalter situation because it's not great, but maybe not for the reason that a lot of soccer fans have said it's not great. I'll address that coming up in a minute. Did Steve Wilkes knock the interim tag off of his head coaching title with that win over Seattle? I think the answer is yes. Lonzo, not so much. We'll break that down coming up and more in this, the final hour of the Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate. I have not yet watched Peaky Blinders, Kevin. I watched like 10 minutes of the first episode and then I walked away. I don't remember why it wasn't that I didn't like it. But I need to watch it. I've heard it's really good. Heard it's really good. I just, for whatever reason, have not made time for it yet.
Wednesday, a chance for rain showers late, cloudy, high 46 degrees. And by Thursday, another chance for rain, cloudy, and high 54. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Buchanan of the Fan Upstate. Currently, it's 42.
And now, Mark Ryan's Morning Sports Spin.
A reality check in for the South Carolina Gamecocks as they lose a few days ago their third best playmaker, Jaheim Bell, and their best overall playmaker, Marshawn Lord. Enters the transfer portal today. A shock to the system. In addition to the hiring of Dowell Roggins, their new offensive coordinator. Now, Dowell in the NFL over a 5-year period, his offenses produced only 17 points a game. The NFL average is 24 points a game. But the bigger picture, and the disappointing thing about where we are in college sports, is that even with a season as successful as South Carolina's had, their star players can just up and leave at the best financial offer for them. How did we get here, and what are we going to do about it? I'm Mark Ryan.
All Sides with Mark Ryan this afternoon, 3 to 7 on The Fan Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg, and on the Odyssey app.
Creepy whispering over.
Did he record that in like a church?
I don't know.
What was that?
I turned us on in the restroom and I started hearing part of it, so I got out of there.
And remains. Ooh.
No, I have no confidence.
It's in your head now.
Yeah.
It's in your head. In your head. Ooh. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the.
That little bottle keeps getting rejected.
We are witnessing a complete and total meltdown right now.
It's not, I mean, it's in and out every time. Got that one finally. You know what it is, and it's the corner of that table keeps catching me. Because you've got that table moved a little. It's not an excuse, it's a reason.
So I have to. The website I usually watch Monday Night Raw on was down this morning, so I have to go home and watch it on my DVR. But somebody just said Bray Wyatt dimmed the lights to do a supernatural thing, and LA Knight immediately turned on his iPhone flashlight. He's the smartest man in professional wrestling.
That was from SmackDown.
Oh, okay.
But he did, and it's pretty smart. You don't just. It's not one of those. It goes dark and someone gets beat down. I mean, this is 2022.
My favorite gimmick, if I ever got to be a pro wrestler, would be wrestler who is aware of the gimmicks of other wrestlers.
By the way, it's Tuesday. Yes or no?
No, let's kill it. I got too much going on.
Check out their collection today at smithandjames.com. Stop by their stores at 222 Trade Street in Greer. Or at their
Someday I want to be an interior decorator.
So you can dress people?
Yeah, that's what they do. I wonder how much a tailor for the mob makes. I mean, there are risks to it, obviously.
Like,
I mean, if you make a bad suit, you're done.
Most of my belief in the way that the mob works, not most, 100% of my belief in how the mob works is from mobster movies.
Of course.
Right? And my thought would be, if you're a tailor for the mob, you probably are the most confident guy on the block, right?
Probably.
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. This is the Fan Upstate. You know, I don't ordinarily look at and turn a conversation. I want to get to the Berhalter thing here momentarily. But something that I hear in Mark Ryan's Sports Minute into something I immediately have to respond to, but just every now and then.
You need to talk like this, though, while you're doing it.
By the way, Mark, are you okay? Blink twice if you recorded that while being held hostage. Mark said that college football has created a situation where the best players can now leave for the better financial investment. And then he ended it with, how did we get here? And what are we going to do about it? I once again repeat the question that I've asked a million times on this show and others. Why is it now that college football players have the same ability as, everybody else, that we have to do something about it?
You are, we got to add this to some other things, an anti-traditionalist. That's what you are. You are anti-traditionalist. Might as well be an anarchist.
You know what my definition of tradition is? Peer pressure from dead people. My great great Annie Felda did it that way. I don't really care.
Did you have an Annie Felda?
I sure did.
Okay,
she was a great woman.
Because you don't come up with Felda out of nowhere.
She was a great woman. But because your great Nana did it this way. Now, there are some things tradition works just fine. My great grandma Efelda would have made a hell of a Nana pudding. And that Nana pudding keeps getting handed out through the family. You know why? Because it still keeps kicking ass at Thanksgiving, right? That's fine. The tradition's good when it works. But I don't accept the tradition of that guy, despite the fact that it is to his detriment personally, should have to ride the pine at my university for another year or two because I want him to. Because I'm loyal to my program, therefore he should be too. Yeah, it's not really how it works. There's no other situation where you have that view. Zero, none, but sports.
Definitely doesn't work in radio because it's cutthroat in radio.
Yep. You're damn right it is. When we talk compensation, it's not just about money, although that is the primary driver, right? If somebody called me tomorrow and said, hey, Rob Brown, we want you to come up here and do our radio show now. Here's what we're willing to offer you. The money they would have to offer would have to be a pretty, frankly, ridiculous amount to get me to go because it also has to offset everything else that I have going on here.
And see, if Rob left and he said, hey, Lonzo, you want to go with me? I would say no, because I'm an upstate tradition.
Sure, that's fine. And your compensation is feeling good in that position, right? It makes you feel the warm fuzzies to go, I'm a traditionalist and this is tradition. That's fine. That is compensation, that warm fuzzy, right?
I do like the warm fuzzy. That's just...
Marshawn Lloyd looked at South Carolina and went, all right, hold up. Minus the handful of games where I had a contusion and was not available, I averaged over 5 yards a carry. But I didn't get the ball that much, right? I didn't get the ball that much. Marshawn Lloyd is a guy that I absolutely believe has the capability to be a backup running back at the National Football League level, potentially getting drafted. And while you could go to Marshawn and go, hey, man, the offensive coordinator who created that problem for you is gone. Marshawn would go, correct. You know who's not gone? The head coach that could have fixed it for me at any problem and didn't do it. And I don't want to be here under that guy, right? If you used a certain exterminators company, right? You had a certain exterminator. Lonzo, you're an exterminator. You got an exterminator that comes to your house?
You know,
Helps you with the bugs.
Sometimes when you see me not push the button, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
So I will say no.
Okay. Most of us have an exterminator or an exterminator company that we utilize the most. I dropped my pen onto the space bar and it exited the studio. My bad.
Okay, that's all right. I just saw me really big on the screen back there, which is not a bad thing, but I have my own exterminator. I have a flamethrower.
So the lady friend has been using the same exterminator company since she bought her house like 5 years ago, right?
If someone does a good job and you like the people, you stick with them.
Sure. She's been using the same exterminator company for like 5 years since she bought her house. Well, about 4 months ago, she called, she set up the appointment. We're sitting at the house when the guy shows up, and it's a new guy. It's a new dude, right? Now, she had been using not only the same company, Alonzo, but the same guy from the same company had been coming to her house for like 4.5 years. New guy shows up, knocks on the door. We open the door. She's like, oh, where's Bill or whatever his name was? He's like, he's not with us anymore. She's like, really? Where did he go? He said he actually got offered a management position at another company. He took it for more money. It's outside of the area. He moved from Greenville over to Spartanburg to take a management job with a new company. Made more money. Do you know what she didn't do? She didn't go, how did we get here and what do we do to fix it? I can't believe that he left this company after 4 years to go somewhere else for a better situation. I like this company and I'm loyal to this company, so he should be loyal to this company, and he should have to come back here. He shouldn't have been allowed to leave. He should not have been allowed to leave Bug Be Gone Exterminator Company. We should be able to force him to stay here because it's what I am used to and it's what I like. And that's what should happen here. She didn't do that. She went, oh, well, damn, good for him. I'm going to be sad to see him go, but good for him for getting a better opportunity. Welcome to the house. Is there anything you need from us?
You know, in the past, your analogy would not work. But because college football is now the NFL light, it's perfectly acceptable because they are employees and they're working for a boss and they're just deciding to go to a different job. So now your analogy works. A couple of years ago, it wouldn't have, though.
Right. And let's say what you just said is 100% true.
Because it is, because I said it.
Sure. Let's say it's true. Okay, it's true.
Kurt Angle agrees with me.
What I heard Mark say, it's damn true. What I heard Mark say a second ago was, how did we get here and what do we do to fix it? And my answer is, if that was Mark's exterminator company and that was Mark's exterminator that had been coming to his house for 4.5 years and then suddenly and without warning took another job at another company and left the area, do you think he would call the exterminator company and be like, how did we get here and what are we going to do to fix it? No. He would go, sucks for me. I really liked Bill. And now I'm going to make the decision about whether or not I stay with Bug Be Gone Exterminator Company or if I try out somebody else, right? But just because Bill went, I am not Bug Be Gone for life. I'm Bug Be Gone for as long as they continue to make me happy with my compensation. Maybe Mark stays with Bug Be Gone because he really likes Bug Be Gone because they're a good company and they're reliable and he hasn't had a pest problem in some amount of time. Maybe all those things are accurate and true. Mark still gets to decide when he doesn't want to use Bug Be Gone anymore, just like Bill. There is no other business, and it is a business. It always has been. Don't let Lonzo trick you into thinking it's only been a business for a couple of years now.
Yeah, but before
It's
it
always
was
been a business.
before it was one of them kind of businesses. You know what I'm saying? One of those, one of them. Now it's supposedly legit.
Legit. It is the only business where the employees can go, I have a better offer elsewhere. And we go, no, we shouldn't allow that. We should not allow that. We should be able to conscript them for 4 years and not let them go to where their best offer is. We should obligate them to stay here and not allow them to go. It is the only business where anyone says that. Do you say that about your Starbucks barista? Do you say that about your exterminator? Did you used to say that about your grocery store cashier before you became that? Do you say that about the guy that washes your car? Did you say that about your bank teller? Do you say that about the manager at the cell phone store? Think about how many businesses you have been in and around just this week, just this month. Think about all the businesses that you are going to visit over the next 2 weeks because you haven't started your Christmas shopping yet. Rob, get it together. You said you wouldn't do it again this year.
Yeah, but you're a dude. It's all right.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm in the norm. Do me a favor. Between now, the 13th of December, over the next 10 days while you're wrapping up your Christmas shopping, or 11 days if you're a lunatic. Over the next 11 days, when you are visiting all the businesses that you will visit in order to acquire Christmas presents for friends and fam, I want you to think about the people who work at those businesses, not the ones who own them, but the ones who work there. The waitress at the restaurant, the guy driving the bus, the dude pouring the coffee. And I want you to think how many times that if you went back to that business and they didn't work there anymore because they took a better job with better compensation elsewhere, would you go, nah, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. They should have to stay here to make me happy. My God, that's a Karen attitude. That's the Karenist attitude. You should not be able to go somewhere else where the compensation is better for you because it makes me unhappy. That's the Karenist of Karen takes. Don't be a Karen. Okay? Don't be a Karen. Texture said, Rob, what's happening now is if the exterminator took your money for a job and then didn't do the job, and I took the money from another job and do the job. No, that's not the case. Marshawn Lloyd showed up in South Carolina. He did the job for a year. He took the compensation for doing the job for a year. Then he said, I don't think the compensation is fair for what I'm bringing to the table. I am going to explore other avenues of opportunity, and somebody else may give me the compensation that I feel like I deserve. The exterminator showed up. He did his job. He got your money for doing the job. Then somebody else said, hey, we'll pay you more. And he went, later. Your attack on the analogy false. Texture said, what's happening now? Scratch that. Fan, great points on leaving the school. Also for the haters that say he quit on the team. No, he didn't. He finished the season. Each season is a new team, new people, and new dynamics. Yeah. I mean, if you want to get mad about the bowl game, that he's not playing the bowl game, that's fine. But, like, nobody cares. There are 3 bowl games anybody cares about. There's 4 bowl games every college football fan cares about, Lonzo. The 2 semifinals, the final, and whatever one your team's playing in. That's the whole list.
Unless you have 2 teams, because it's perfectly acceptable.
If Clemson beats Tennessee by a point, you good over there, buddy? You good?
That's funny. That's the funniest thing you've said all day. Rock top, you'll always be.
If Clemson beats Tennessee by a point, is that a grand referendum on where Clemson's football program is? No. It's not.
Boy, Katie came out there and they killed everything. Well, I mean, you got this thing of rocket top. What you want? Go Tigers.
I think Clemson Boomhauer is my new favorite character Alonzo does. Clemson Boomhauer.
I
love it.
I've met that guy. I've met several of them. They're all the same guy. And some women, by the way. Sounds just like that too. They do.
If Clemson beats Tennessee, it is not a referendum on where Clemson is as a football program. Right? You take some pride in it. Go buy yourself the T-shirt. Maybe Cade comes out and throws for 350 and 6, and that dude does do it.
No. If Clemson does all the things that you said, which they're not going to, but if they did, then some shows and some stations will still be throwing out hypotheticals about if Cade would have started all year long.
Right, but there's a million variables, most of them detracting from the argument. The bowl games are largely irrelevant. So a guy opting out of the bowl game for his own betterment is fine by me, right? Because if Marshawn goes, I'm going to transfer, but I'm going to play the bowl game, and then he pops an ACL, guess who ain't transferring no more? And guess who ain't finding that better compensation? That guy. Texas said an NFL player can't leave his contract to go somewhere else for more money, and that's what's happening in the NCAA. Scholarships are technically year-to-year contracts. You don't get all 4 years up front. Scholarships are technically year-to-year contracts. So you're correct. When an NFL player comes to the end of his contract, he becomes a free agent and is allowed to talk to other teams to find out what team is going to provide him with the compensation that he wants, whether it be financial or lives in a particular city he wants to live in or gives him warm fuzzies because his dad played for that team and now he does too. Whatever the compensation is, once his contract is completed, like a scholarship is at the end of the year, most of the time, he gets to go find that spot. So you're right. That's exactly what's happening. Texas says, your analogy breaks down because sports and contract employment does not work anything like what is happening to the NCAA. Tell you what, elaborate on that and I'll respond because you haven't given me anything to elaborate on here. Your analogy breaks down because sports and contract employment does not work anything like what is happening in the NCAA. Tell me what you mean by that, because it certainly seems to me that it does. Fan, but an NFL player can be traded at the team's discretion. Sure can. Just like a coach can walk out on a contract and go to another school, and there's a place in play for that.
Just wait. Since the NCAA is becoming the NFL, eventually they're going to be able to trade. Can't wait till that happens.
Slippery slope.
All the people who are having problems now coping with life, they're really going to struggle when that happens.
Slippery slope theory. Because A does not mean then B that C.
See, you can go with this, but the same thing was said of the transfer portal will never happen. Oh, kids will never be able to be paid. All these things that never will happen have happened. When transfer portal first started, I said it would be free agency, and no. Someone said across from there and said it absolutely will not be. That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
So if you're doing everything else that the NFL does, why not trade? Why not? Let's put a trade deadline on the NCAA and let's start trading players. Why not?
Okay.
I want it to happen so that other people will just freak out because I'm just for the chaos more so than you.
Let me then respond to you and Mark Ryan at the same time by saying the same thing.
Me and my little bro.
Hug and hang. Let me respond to you both at the same time. If you don't like where it is, if you don't like where it's going, stop watching. No, I know you don't care that much.
I was gonna say you're not. I'm an NFL guy. I mean, I've been pinned, so I don't know. I don't know why this is directed at me.
Then let me respond to Mark and everybody, of which there are a lot. Everybody in his camp.
Think of how much show prep we've given them today.
I know. I will respond to you all the same way. A lot of us got no problem. None. I'm perfectly happy. If you do, and you are unhappy with the product, there's a very simple solution. Quit watching it. Quit buying polos, quit buying tickets, quit flying to games, quit watching on TV. If you are unhappy with the product, stop watching it. But there's no other industry where you say that guy should not be allowed to go find a better opportunity because I want him to make me and me alone happy. That to me is the exclamation point on the paragraph. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute and wrap this bad boy up on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right, stream got a live read right here. We will be right back. Don't go nowhere.
Boys are 10-3 and riding a 4-game winning streak heading into Week 15, but they are adding another weapon to the offense. Dallas signing veteran receiver T.Y. Hilton. Head coach Mike McCarthy said Hilton has a chance to play this Sunday against the Jaguars.
That's disturbing, Roger. I hope Rob reads it when he comes back. He might fall out of his chair.
Let's check your weight. Hop on the scale.
you love saving money. You want to save even more. That's why Geico makes it easy to bundle your motorcycle and car insurance.
I'm going to prescribe 91 octane for your engine knock, and we'll want to see you again in 3,000 miles.
Kickstart your savings with Geico Motorcycle. Bundle and save on the things you love.
Where do holiday happenings take over every aisle? Lowe's, actually. Right now, save on everything you need for the holiday season. Get up to 50% off select pre-lit Christmas trees.
Hopefully, little bro will hear some audio from today and decides he wants to pull it and use it on his program. To that, I would say, you're welcome. What are the odds that Rob makes it back in time? He has about 30 seconds. If he doesn't come back, I'll do Twitter trending topics without him. And I'll pretend like I don't know what it's about, because I can do that. He made it. God.
Of course I made it. I almost never don't make it.
Almost never. All right, time Twitter trending topics where I tell Rob and all the little bros out there what is trending, and he will let us know why it's trending. The first thing that's trending is 1%er.
It's trending because your boy is on the air. That's why.
No, it's trending because of chicken cordon bleu. That's not why it's trending. I didn't click on it. But 1%er.
We did have a texter earlier say, Rob, where do you find blue chickens? So
in North Carolina, duh.
I guess. I don't know.
All right. The next thing is trending. I don't know why 1%er is trending, but it is. So, I just thought it went along with the theme of the show today.
I'm just trending.
And almost every day. The next thing is trending is Matt Riddle.
So Matt Riddle has been sitting out because Matt Riddle has failed a drug test. Now, failed a second drug test. He failed one a while back. It got a big match pushed back for him. He failed a second drug test and has been told by WWE this is now a rehab or be fired situation. And before you make your hilarious jokes, bro, the WWE does not test for marijuana anymore, meaning that Riddle was likely on either some sort of banned PED or heavy narcotics. Obviously, we cannot and should not speculate on that, but we will find out sooner rather than later, I'm sure.
All right, the next thing is trending is Dick Van Dyke.
I saw Dick Van Dyke trending earlier. I did not see why.
97.
97. We got Bob Barker hitting 99. We got Dick Van Dyke hitting 97.
And there's
we
a
got
good
Mel
shot.
Brooks hitting 140.
Yeah, there's a good shot that there's a portion of our audience who has no idea who Dick Van Dyke is.
The Dick Van Dyke Show, when I was growing up, Nick at Night is infuriating to me now because when I was growing up, Nick at Night was running The Addams Family and Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore and all those great shows from back in the day. And now Nick at Night doesn't even run like the 90s sitcoms like Family Matters and Step by Step. Now they run shows that were on the air when I was effectively an adult. And they're like, let's take a look back at some of television's classics. And I'm like, no.
Man, you're old.
No,
That's
this
what
is
that
not
means.
a classic. This was like 2 years ago.
All right, the last thing is trending is Bray Wyatt.
Bray Wyatt trending, I'm assuming because of the interaction with Alexa Bliss earlier, or I should say last night on Monday Night Raw.
Oh, so you know about that.
I do know about that.
Yes. That's why it's trending.
Can I just say, that's actually kind of dope.
Yes.
That was kind of cool. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our show for the day. I would like to tell you all, if you find a job opportunity with better compensation that works out better for you, take it. And if somebody takes a job with better compensation and they can't work in the spot where you want them to anymore, that's okay, because that's how life works.
The Rob Brown Show, show prep for the Immortals.
Jim Rome's got you up next in the jungle. Mark and Diesel take you off sides at 3, and we will see you back here tomorrow to do it all over again on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Later, brother.
I'm going to get that strongly worded email. Yeah.
That's a life goal for the great one. All right, guys, you guys are the best. We appreciate you watching. Thank you very much, and we will see you back here tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.